Okay, well, welcome. Today we are going to be talking about your grandma, my grandma, and really mostly the people that went before us. And so the reason that I wanted to talk about this with you today, and just thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time to be here wherever you are in the world or whatever time this is in your life. This is exactly where you needed to be. We're happy that you found us. And today we have got a little bit that we want to talk about what really has come from our past and why we have those gifts that we have and where we are with our core values and why our core values, people from the past, have affected the core values that we have now and what we're even passing on with the things that are happening to us. And then what I want to tie it in to really talk about is how does this affect your business? How does this affect your life? And how does this affect how you are showing up in the world? So let me um, let me just tell you a little bit about my grandma. And she was an incredibly amazing, gigantic, 4'10" woman. She was one of 15 children, same mom, same dad, one of 15 children. And I called my aunt just to ask about her a little bit because I wanted to make sure that what I was remembering was really what had happened. And so there were some things that I didn't remember. And my aunt told me that my grandma started as a cook. She actually cooked for a very prominent family in the area. McKay was their last name. And so she would feed this family and cook for them and was their maid and lived with them in their home. And that's how she started. And she was married to my grandpa at the time. And so that they had to travel. And back then they didn't have cars. A lot of them did not have cars. So they went by horse to get to all the different places that they needed to be. So she had to live in kind of a maid's quarter and live there. And that's a lot of what she would get paid. And then she would get paid a few dollars, right? Because they just didn't make very much back then. But in that process, she learned the skills that she needed to be able to go to what the next journey in her life was going to be. And that was to become a school cook. And so she cooked for the children at the school in this very large district. And she worked her way up in what was called Box Elder County, which is just a huge area that encompassed a whole bunch of cities. And these children would be bused to the Garland School, which is a very small town in the middle of nowhere in northern Utah in the United States. And she was the school cook and cooked the most amazing meals. So growing up, I never got away with not eating school lunch because my grandma would check on it and make sure that I was eating my school lunch. She was just a fabulous woman, and she really had to deal with a lot in her home life because my grandpa was known as the town drunk. And he was not very nice sometimes to her. And there was, a lot of altercations that happened. But when we were growing up, I just remember him being funny. I just remember him being funny all the time and smart alecky and, you know, pulling jokes on people. He was a prankster and everybody just loved my grandpa. So he was not like a mean guy in all kinds of different ways, just only sometimes maybe would be a little abrupt or something with my grandma. But there wasn't a lot of huge abuse that went on. It's just my grandma knew she had to support the family because she couldn't depend on my grandpa to support the family. So even back then, and my grandma, oh, I should have asked when she was born, 1902, I'm thinking 19 or 1910. 1910 she was born. So just so you can kind of put it all together. So my grandma, the reason that I wanted to go back and tell you this is she worked her way up in the school lunch program all the way up to the supervisor over this whole entire county, over all of this whole area. And not only did she do that, but she ran a 50-acre farm with 10 acres of apples, and they had a very prominent wood apple farm. And she picked apples. I just was talking to my aunt a little while ago. She said she picked and sorted apples, and they squeezed the apples to make apple juice. And she did that until just a couple of years before she died, and she lived to be 90 years old. So she worked all the time. And I remember her taking me out and showing me the garden. I remember her working. When we went there, we worked. We thought it was play, we're up picking apples, we're, always eating our apples. There's just so many fun memories and so much history with our past, with our grandma and grandpa. And the other reason that I wanted to tell you this is because I want to talk about the gifts that we give, the gifts that we receive, and what those gifts look like, and how it appears in our life. And I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you this story in a roundabout way because I want to share a story about a different woman, another woman whose name is Mary. She's not related to me. This is a total separate story than what I've just been telling you, but it's going to help us understand the treasure gift that my grandma gave to me. And this story, and I am going to read just a little bit of it. It's a story about a young woman named Mary who received a gift of just a simple strand of pearls. And she was so mad. When she got the gift, she threw it on her bed and she just thought, my mother, my stupid, stupid mother. Tomorrow was her high school graduation, and all of her friends had received beautiful dresses, expensive gifts. Her mother had sewn her a simple dress and gave her an old string of pearls. And Mary felt humiliated. Her name was Mary King. And as she got ready for bed that night, she noticed a letter from Mr. Morse. And he was a kind man that had let Mary and her mother live in his home for years. And she was expecting a check from this man. And she opened it up, and it was a letter. That's all that was in here. And Mr. Morse wrote that he had overheard Mary complaining about her mother and about her red face, her thin hair, and the way her foot dragged when she walked. He said Mary needed a story more than she needed money. He told of a young couple who had once moved to town. The husband had been disowned by his wealthy father for marrying the woman he loved. The couple worked hard to build a simple life together, but the same night their little daughter was born, the husband died from a terrible accident. And the husband's wealthy father offered to take the baby and raise her in luxury if the mother would never see her again. But the mother refused, and she loved her daughter too much to let her go to the grandfather. So years later, when the little girl was 3, the mother was working at a school, and a fire broke out in their building. The mother ran through the smoke and the flames to rescue her child. When she finally emerged, she was terribly burned. Her face, hands, feet, and hair all painful and raw. But she carried her two greatest treasures. One was her daughter, and one was a strand of pearls. And the grandmother again offered to raise the child, the grandfather, and the mother again refused. So, Mr. Morse explained in this letter that he had helped them move away so that no one would know what had happened. He had watched Mary's mother work tirelessly with stiff, painful hands, saving every penny so Mary could go to college. The simple dress and the pearls were given with so much love and sacrifice. Mary had sat frozen as tears streamed down her face. All this time, she had thought it was Mr. Morse who was paying for her to go to college. All this time, she had been ashamed of the very woman who had sacrificed everything for her. When her mother knocked on the door, Mary wiped her tears. Mary, are you all right? Mary hugged her tightly, and she whispered, the pearls, mother, they are so beautiful. Have you had them long? Oh, yes, I've had them for many years. Your father gave them to me. He had to work so hard to earn them. I love every pearl on that string. I saved them for you once long ago because I wanted you to have something that he had earned for both of us. Mary could hardly speak. Why, wrapping her mother in a great big hug, she said, truly, I have the most beautiful mother in the world. And when Mary had learned the truth, her heart broke with gratitude and regret because the pearls were no longer just a necklace. They were a symbol of her father's love, her mother's courage, and the priceless sacrifice that had protected her. So there's three parts, and please forgive me for all of my emotion, but it really ties in to what my grandmother also gave me at my graduation. And there is three parts to giving gifts. The one is the giving of the gift with so much thought and preparation on the part of the giver. Number two is the accepting and opening of the gift with gratitude and recognition. And three is the receiving of the gift, which means valuing it for ourselves, using it fully in our lives, and remembering the giver with thankfulness. So, this third part is where we receive the gift, is perhaps the most important part. Have you ever experienced gift giving and then having the other person not truly appreciate the gift that you gave, that you worked so hard? So then he goes on to talk about his little boy that received a pop-up dinosaur book from an aunt. And when he opened it, he said, this is so stupid. I am not into dinosaurs anymore. And so, even as a little child, this aunt that had given his son this book, it made her really sad and kind of confused and very careful in maybe not giving gifts again from her heart in the future. So, in this story that I just told you, Mary's story, her mother gave the gift, which is part one. Mary opened the gift, which is part two. And Mary understood the giver, her mom, the sacrifices, the gift of the pearls, and the value that she could fully receive them with gratitude was part three. So, as we are sharing things in our world and maybe sharing our gifts with other people, we need to maybe understand all three parts of that gift giving. And I didn't even understand that part because when I graduated from high school, my grandma had given me, not high school, I'm sorry, when I graduated from college, my mom and dad had been killed in a car accident 2 years prior. And so at my college graduation, my grandma came and she had a little wrapped gift for me, and it was this book. And it's called The Treasure Chest. And when I received it, I was so disappointed because I thought, if my mom and dad were here, I know that they would have celebrated and been so, because I was the first to graduate from college and I felt so deserving and I felt like I deserved so much more. And she gave me this book and I I was very good to be grateful receiving it. In my heart, I was so mad. I was like, I am so mad that nobody is appreciating or celebrating that this grand, great accomplishment that I have just made. Now you know why I prefaced the story, because it was that I did not understand. I did not understand the sacrifices of my grandma and growing up and being one of 15 children, having to be a maid and a cook. And she was a cook all her life. And this was a book that was given to her. And it is a handed me down book, but it is also, she wrote in the very front of it, a very special message to me. And what I found out later, because I mean, I would glance through it and read it and just think it was just so special later in my life. But it wasn't until she passed away that I pulled the book out and I just thought, what was the message that my grandma really wanted to give me with this treasure chest? And as I go through, it is all poems. It is all broken off into different sections about happiness and joy and your business and opportunities. And it is a beautiful, beautiful treasure chest for sure. But there are little teeny pencil marks checked off by the quotes that she thought I would want to read or that I needed to read. And so this has become a true, cherished book for me because she put in here little check marks of messages. So even though she's not here physically, she's here with me so much because I can pull this book out and I can read it. And so I looked in here today before I was going to talk to you, and I knew that I wanted to talk about gifts today. And there is a check mark by this simple little thing called gifts. And it says, to your enemy, forgiveness. To an opponent, tolerance. To a friend, your heart. To a customer, service. To all men, charity. To every child, a good example. To yourself, respect. So this treasure is going to be carried on for generations and generations in my own family. And there will be an explanation in there. And then as I went through it again another time, I found that I had stuck this envelope in there from my grandma. And here is a $5 bill, a little just a $5 crumpled up, raggedy, old $5 bill. how grateful I am now, but how ungrateful I was at the time. And so by sharing this, I hope that you really understand the power of your gifts. And maybe the person receiving it doesn't understand and they don't know all of the sacrifice or all of the things that you have done. Or maybe that customer that walks through your door doesn't realize you're on the brink of bankruptcy or all of the sacrifice that you have put in because you're so successful. It goes, I just gave you very opposite polar ends of what success could look like. But truly, in the middle of all of that failure and the very greatest, success in your life, in the world, is all of that in between time where we're giving gifts, we're receiving gifts, we are a gift in other people's lives. All of that is gifts in the power of being able to receive and being able to give and then being able to explain the gift. And this all comes back to our core values and who we are inside. And I promised that I would show you how to create your core or how to discover your core values very simply. And it is a simple exercise that I hope that you will do on your own time. But I want you just to take a piece of paper and I want you to write a person that you admire and write about 5 people that you admire on one side of the paper. And then draw a line and write qualities on the other side of the paper. And then what you're going to do is, and when I did this exercise, my grandma was the very first person on there. My mom was the second person on there. And I just listed down, and it could be people that are dead, alive, famous people, presidents, past presidents, community builders in your area, um, church leaders, whoever it is, Mother Teresa, anybody that you admire and really truly take the time to list about 5 to 8 people on this column. And then over here, write down their qualities. And when I've done this before, a lot of times people don't understand, well, what are qualities like? What are the qualities that I admire in a person? So maybe some of those words look like courageous, determined, thoughtful, loving, kind, generous. Um, they show up. They are powerful. They they are responsible. They're very talented and gifted. Write down what those qualities are over here. And then on the next person, if you like all the qualities that you've listed over here, just put a check mark by the qualities that you listed over here. And then if there's a new quality that shows up from one of these others, keep adding onto your quality list over here. And then when you're done with that, I want you to go back and look at all the qualities and I want you to circle the ones that really mean something to you, that really set off a something inside of you. And just put a circle around those. Then after you're done with that, at the very bottom, you write I am, and then you write those qualities that you circled, and those are your core values. This is truly a way to access it through the back of your mind. Because if we would have just sat down and said, okay, what do you think your core values are? Most of the time, people can't write down their core values. And sometimes it's a gift from people from the past. And we admire those qualities so much that we put them like almost in our shopping basket, but we put them inside and we tuck them in our shopping basket or inside our heart. And we do this from the time we're small. And we take those qualities that we see, that we admire, and we start sticking them in like our shopping cart or our heart. And we keep that inside of us. So then when we start coming out into the world and we start having jobs, we start interacting with people, sometimes something really triggers us and we get feeling off or we get unsettled. It's because you're now facing something that is not part of your core values. And so it doesn't settle well with you. And probably things in that part of the business or that part of your life won't be lining up correctly. And it seems off or there's no clarity there. When we discover that we're out of alignment with these core values that are so deep inside of us, then we understand why that part of the business isn't working out or things aren't lining up in our life. It's because we're so out of alignment with that core value. And you can't go back and change your core values. They are like instilled inside of you. You can learn new habits. You can add core values, but your core values are truly a valuable gift that you have been given and you've allowed yourself to receive. And you've done all three steps that we talked about it. And you understand the value of it. You've been explained why it's so important to be responsible or to be respected or to have courage or whatever your core values are that you end up with at the end of this small, short little exercise. That's why things feel off in your life. And if you will just be quiet for a minute, go back to your core values, look and see who you're being or what's showing up in your life, everything will start to line back up again. And you can get right back on your path of where you need to go. This helps so much when even we can share this with other people. I was shown this exercise about 10 years ago, and my husband and I did this exact same exercise that I did with you with one of our financial business coaches. And just think about that. It was a very high paying financial business course that we were in. And they said it does not matter one thing about you being able to be successful or not successful unless you understand your core values and you understand the gifts of the past people or the people that you admire that you have brought along with you. It will not matter. What determines your success is how lined up you stay with your core values. Now, there's always exceptions to the rule. I'm sure that you can find an exception to the rule where you've plowed through something and you've gotten your success. But you just might not understand where that core value came from with your grandma who was picking apples at 90 years old and sorting apples on the farm because she was determined to keep going. So your core values really are one of the very most important things that you can discover for yourself in your life, and it is one of the greatest gifts that we have. So today, I want you to understand your strength and your gift as you're interacting with people in your business, as your financial scorecard starts growing, as you start creating businesses or lining yourself up with the right people. If you're understanding those core values, it's going to be such a greater gift for you to be able to accept and receive and to move through life when you understand this. So thank you for letting me share emotionally this value that is so deep in my heart with you today. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions. Okay, well, we will see you next time then.
Thank you, Lori.